Everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're doing another tier list. This time we're ranking all the Infinity Saga movies. A little backstory before we get into the MCU movies. Right around the time Infinity War came out, I started playing a little mobile game called Marvel Strike Force. And I've been playing that ever since, spending way too much money. And along the way, I became a leader of my alliance, and I joined with a good friend, Mighty Max, who is going to be joining us today to discuss this. So, everyone, please welcome Max.
What's up?
All right, so let's do this. Um, let's begin with the first movie that started it all, which was Iron Man 1. So, what's your thoughts about Iron Man 1? Where do you rank the first Iron Man movie? S
Man,
being amazing, D being less than ideal.
yeah, I mean, for me, it was pretty amazing. It was the one that kicked it off. I mean, I was trying to think back to like any movie prior to that that had anything close to that kind of feel, where like the CGI was totally on point, the story was exciting, um, and I remember all the buzz back then of people talking about like this, kind of this was the beginning of a much bigger story arc, and they were going to bring everyone else in, so it felt really exciting. It was kind of the rebirth of Robert Downey Jr. um and kind of him becoming cool and hip and fun again.
Yeah, he was like arrested or something like prior to the movie, and also like I think this is the first time you have Marvel do a movie, right?
Yeah,
Instead of
yeah,
like
exactly.
licensing their properties. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with licensing properties. Obviously, you get like a good movie like Spider-Man 2 or the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, right? But then
Yeah.
it's like and not quite a needle in the haystack because you also got a movies like Elektra though, and there's far more shitty movies than Affleck's Daredevil, which is
Yeah.
okay, but So for me,
Yeah, a lot of people crap on that. I was okay with it, but
yeah,
like I was even thinking of like the early, uh, like there was a couple of early Hulks. Were they before?
no, one of the Hulks is in the MCU, and that's the next movie we talk about. That's with Edward Norton,
Yeah,
and then
but there
there's
were
the
like two before that, weren't there?
there was one with
One
really
before
bad
that.
CGI.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking. I was like, man, like the jump from the CGI and that Hulk to Iron Man was huge.
Huge. So yeah, and I think the story of Iron Man 1 is just really solid,
Yeah,
approachable to anyone,
yeah,
and like it's just about a guy who's just loses everything and tries to become a better person, right? And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
essentially the story. For me, I'm giving it an S tier.
Yeah, that was definitely where I was at.
All right, so the next one, speaking of Hulk, is the Edward Norton Hulk. Um, for me, I don't know how I feel about this movie. For one, it's kind of awkward because Edward Norton was only in that one movie, but technically, like all of the like, what's the actor who plays Hulk? I always forget his name.
Oh yeah. The first one I think was Orlando Bloom, wasn't
No,
it?
no, I'm talking about the Edward Norton Hulk. I'm talking
Oh,
about the one that's taken over since in like the Avengers.
Mark Ruffalo,
Mark
the one who's
Ruffalo. So
now, yeah,
technically, the story of Edward Norton is the same story as Mark Ruffalo. So like everything with Abomination, and there's a little Easter egg with like the leader. The one scientist guy. If you remember, they had like a text conversation, blue and green, going on the entire movie. Yeah, Thunderbolt Ross, who's in like several of the other Marvel movies, like
yeah,
especially
yeah.
like it's all the same lore, but like the movie itself wasn't that great. And I don't know where I would like I'm probably
Like
ranking.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
remember when I first watched it, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Edward Norton's performance. Like I don't remember what happened. I remember some like rumors of him like, pissing people off or being difficult to work with. But I thought he did a good job in the movie. I remember like, you know, laughing a few times, but it did feel confusing where it was like going from, whatever that first Hulk was to Edward Norton and then jumping to Mark Ruffalo. Um, and I felt like I didn't at the time I didn't understand who Abomination was. I thought it was just kind of like a random character that they sort of came up with because it didn't seem connected to the whole story. So I mean, I would probably give it like somewhere between like a B and a C. Like I felt like the CGI was pretty good. You know, it got a couple of chuckles out of me, but it wasn't like wasn't great, wasn't terrible.
For me, simply because you have the after credit scene with the leader being born, who gets the gamma in his brain, and we haven't seen him since. We've seen Abomination a few times, like in Shang-Chi and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
we also
yeah.
haven't seen like anything. And like Thunderbolt Ross's daughter Betty, who's like the main legend. So we have seen the Hulk, obviously, but we haven't seen the love interest, and not even a mention of her, right? I would give it a like a D or a C. So I think if you say B, C, and I say C, D, I guess meet in the middle and go for C.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny like you mentioned the love interest because they've almost made like Black Widow's Hulk's love interest almost in
Yeah, yeah, they
the rest of
basically
the
did.
MCU.
And they just completely never even mentioned Betty, like what happened to Betty, right? If you
Right.
watch Hulk comics, Betty's a huge character, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
like, well, where is she? So moving on, we got Iron Man 2. This is a little bit of introduction you have to Don Cheadle's War Machine, because you remember in Iron Man 1, you have a different War Machine who wanted to get as much money, I believe, as Robert Downey Jr. to play War Machine. So they just recasted him, and we've had the
Is
same
that
War
what
Machine.
happened? I always wondered what
Yeah, I think it has to do
happened.
with that. He wanted more money or something like that. And now we have like Robert Downey Jr., who's been Iron Man since. You also
Yeah,
have Whiplash as Mickey Rourke, and
yeah.
you have Justin Hammer in this. And again, here's a case of sorry, we haven't seen any Hammer Enterprise since. I remember at the time I thought the movie was great, but in hindsight, it's definitely not Iron Man 1, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I I really enjoyed the movie. I thought Mickey Rourke was fun. Like I thought
With
some
the
people
parrot.
took it. The parrot was a little over the top, but like when he came out as Whiplash, like during the race and like cut the car in half with his whips and stuff, I thought that was pretty badass. And I thought overall he was a good villain for Tony.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I just think Tony being Robert Downey Jr. being Tony is entertaining.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And
So
it was cool because that's the one too where didn't he come out in like the beginning of the movie and announce that he was Iron Man?
no, that's like the way Iron Man 1 ends. And
Oh,
then
it
like
ends that way. I
yeah,
couldn't remember if it ended that way or the other one began that way because that
yeah,
was
this one begins this way. Um, I think I'm gonna like knowing what we know, like we have all these other movies as you can see coming ahead. I think I would say this is a solid B.
yeah, that's where my head was at too.
All right, so our next movie is the first Thor movie. So this movie is where they introduced us to a non-human stuff, and we go to Asgard, and he doesn't have the hammer for like 90% of the movie, and the whole love, like the most of the story is like a love interest story with him and Natalie Portman.
Yeah, that one was it was hard for me because I was kind of excited for Thor to come around, but it wasn't the most fun movie I felt like.
I think this is
Uh
also the introduction to Hawkeye
is
because
that
he's Hawkeye is in the tower when he's trying to get like Shield sets up the base around the hammer,
mm-hmm.
and then Hawkeye's there.
Is that yeah. All right. Yeah. I like that one for me was a kind of like middle road. Like I like that they were introducing new characters, you know, from the greater universe, but I didn't like didn't really excite me, I felt like.
Yeah, I agree. I do like Natalie Portman. She's
Yeah.
gorgeous, but that doesn't change me justifying what I think about this movie. I would say like I'm gonna it's in between the Hulk movie and the Iron Man 2 for me. I would say probably like it's either like a C but above Hulk or a B but below Iron Man 2.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like a B minus.
Yeah. So let's just put it in the B tier here and left to right, better ones are at the right. So then after that, we had Captain America, the first Avenger. So this movie, we got the flashback. It's basically a World War II movie, right?
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, that one, I don't know. Again, that one for me was like felt a little hokey, you know?
You
Um,
know, I love the movie.
did you?
I don't know why. I absolutely love this movie. I just um maybe one of my issues with the only my only issue with the movie is you like condense all the World War II into like a 2 hour movie, right? But the buddy from Matrix who plays Red Skull kills it as Red Skull.
Yeah,
And
Red Skull was good. And I felt the like the prelude or whatever you want to call it, where they show him as like, the scrawny guy who'll never give up and choosing him, based on his heart. That part was pretty solid. Um, I guess I've always kind of struggled with the like, oh, he just crashes into the North Pole and freezes for 60 years.
yeah, but you can't really blame that on the movie, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Yeah, that's more of the lore, right, itself, and then they find him and stuff. I don't know. I guess my only issue, like I said, is like right when it starts getting juicy, they do a time lapse, and it goes from like first act to third act, right? There's not much of a middle act. They basically montage the entire war, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was like one long motorcycle ride through explosions, pretty much.
Yeah, where they're just taking down the Red Skull bases and stuff.
Yeah.
And the Red Skull and Cap don't really have a really good battle. They do, but it's not that great. But at the end, when he wakes up and everything, it's pretty epic. I don't know where I would rank this. Where are you thinking?
Oh man, I don't want to put all the movies in the B, but I mean it was like, I don't know. I felt like it was fun. It was a new character, um, but it didn't wow me. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would kind of like, where I would put it right now is like in like the B range
Between the
between
two?
Thor and Iron Man 2 there.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I might probably like it more than Iron Man 2, but I'll give this one to you and then I'll pick the next one.
Yeah, right.
So now we have the first Avengers, and what I need to say, like this movie at the time, like there was nothing like it. Just so epic. Not much of a villain, but just crazy interactions and just crazy fight. One of the most iconic scenes in any comic book movie when they're all together, and then the whole like the key about staying the Hulk is always being mad, and just he transforms and takes down the big like space thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's the line, like, oh, like puny god or whatever, like when he's smashing Loki.
Yeah, like this is an amazing movie.
Yeah, for sure.
So where are you ranking this, or any you got any other comments to say about this?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like, it's a you had a good point about like at the time there was nothing like it. I feel like I tried to rewatch it maybe a few years ago, and like it didn't hit nearly as hard. But at that time, 100%, there was nothing like this. And it really had that big like blockbuster action feel, um, and the whole iconic team coming together was just too cool. I mean, for me, it would definitely be like an S tier.
For me, I think like so we're basing it only on the Infinity Saga. It's either like bottom of the like I guess I would say A tier because you know what's coming, right? But at the same time, as I said and as you reminded me at the time, nothing like it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, do you think it's better than Iron Man 1?
Oh, hmm.
I wouldn't say so because I think you can rewatch Iron Man. It's still a good movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I feel like a little bit was lost. It was more exciting at the time, and a little bit. I think maybe because it doesn't have like such a strong villain, and it's more about the team than it is about Loki. You
Yeah,
know?
or what's the alien race called? I can't even remember. The
Uh,
Chishari or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. And they just get wiped out by the end. But yeah, still a good movie for sure. So now we're done phase one. Yes, that is the tier list. And
We did it.
woot. All right, everyone. So thanks for watching. Be sure to click that subscribe button. Thanks, Max, for joining the video.
It was a blast, man. Thanks.
All right, and hope everyone checks out the follow-up video, which we'll eventually do, and check you guys later.
Peace.